welcome back to another Simply Dark episode. In today's video, we are going to be talking about something that I feel is terrifying. Something that I can only describe as one of my worst nightmares. Today, I bring you the story of Barbara Mackle, a girl that was kidnapped and buried alive and survived. Barbara Mackle was a 20-year-old university student and was the daughter of a millionaire called Robert Mackle. Robert Mackle owned the Deltona Corporation, one of the biggest corporations in America at that time. So obviously the Mackle family was a very powerful family at the time and owned a lot of money. And from this, you can straight away understand why she was kidnapped. In 1968, the flu of Hong Kong hit Barbara University and she fell really ill. So obviously, seeing her daughter like that, Barbara's mother decided to travel from her house till the university where Barbara was living to take care of her. So getting there, Barbara's mom decided that it would be better to take her daughter home and take care of her at home. So then they start their very long journey from Atlanta, which was where Barbara University was, to Florida, which was where the family lived. And because this was such a big road trip, they decided to stop and rest for the night in a little city called Decatona. I think that's how you say it. It was a very, very small town, so they decided to just spend the night there so they could recharge and then get to the road again the next day. Now here is where everything gets dark. In the middle of the night, they hear someone knocking at the door. Barbara's mom then asks who is it, and it was the voice of a man. She opens the door and this man is dressed up as a police officer. But as you guys may guess already, it wasn't a real officer. He was just a strange man pretending to be a police officer. And this man wasn't alone. He actually had a woman with him that was dressed up as a man. And she was so well disguised that Barbara's mom didn't even notice she was a woman. Now, when Barbara's mom asked what they want, what was this about, the man told her that Barbara's boyfriend had a very serious accident. Obviously, this was all a big lie and they were just trying to get them both to go with them. As soon as they got close enough to Barbara's mom, they knocked her out, gave her drugs so she would sleep and not realize what was happening, and then at gunpoint took Barbara with them. So they took her into a car and actually told her that she was being kidnapped, so she knew what was going on. They then took her into a forest/wooden area where no one was around and where no one could hear what was about to happen in there. Now, when Barbara got out of the car and went into the woods, she noticed that they had already digged a hole on the floor. So obviously this whole situation was premeditated. So this was all planned from the beginning. They knew what they wanted to do. And these two people, they were actually quite young. They were 23 and 26, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do with her. And not only they had the hole on the ground ready, they also had a coffin ready for her to get into. Now obviously they made Barbara get into the coffin, and one thing that was very strange is that the coffin was full of stuff for Barbara. So they have food for her in there, they had a blanket, they have lanterns inside. So I don't think the plan was to kill her. They just wanted to keep her there and keep her alive I think that obviously they wanted her to suffer. I think they got some pleasure out of that, to be honest. But the objective was never to kill her because they wanted the money. They were actually asking for $500,000, which today is about $3.5 million. Before nail shutting the coffin, they took a picture of Barbara. Barbara had a little paper on top of her saying kidnapped, and obviously I don't know and I can't even imagine what she had in her mind at the time, but she must have been terrified. Like I said in the beginning, this is one of my most terrifying nightmares, is being buried alive. And every time I look at her picture, seriously, it gives me the chills, because the things that might have gone through her head, it must have been awful, just awful. And then after taking the picture, they closed the coffin shut and started burying it in the ground. Obviously, Barbara was screaming her lungs out, asking for help, tell them please to stop. Like I said, she must have been terrified. Years later after this, she actually wrote her biography where she tells everything that happened to her in detail. So if you guys are interested in reading that, I will try to find it and put it in the description box below so you can get it yourselves and read it. And let's not forget that she was being buried alive inside a coffin at night. So this biography will for sure be something very hard to read. And my advice would be, please don't read it before bedtime. Her biography book is called 83 Hours Till Dawn. It was published in 1971. So like I said before, if you are interested, I will link it in the description box below. Now, in the same day that Barbara was kidnapped, the kidnappers call her family home to obviously let the family know. Obviously, as you can imagine, Barbara's father was panicking, completely shocked, without knowing what to do. And that's when the kidnapper told him, look, if you want your daughter alive, you need to give us $500,000 in cash and make sure no police is aware of this. Obviously, what they did, it's something pretty common. When you see kidnappings or even in movies, you will see that they always say, we want the money in cash and don't alert the police, otherwise you will regret it. So that was exactly what they did. Their instructions said very clearly that Robert, Barbara's father, would have to put the money in a folder and take it to this specific place, which was a safe place that the kidnappers would then get to and take the money. And then they proceeded to tell Barbara's father to put an article about the kidnapping on the newspaper. So basically, they wanted him to do this so people could help him find where Barbara was buried. Then after 2 days they kidnapped Barbara. They called the Mackle family again. This time they tell them the precise place where they want them to put the money so they could go and get it. However, one person that lived near the place that the kidnappers choose to go and get the money thought it was very weird for so many people to be in that spot. That place was a very secluded place. It never had people. And then on that day, he was seeing all these strange people, which were the kidnappers and Robert, Barbara's father, and he thought that was very suspicious and decided to call the police. Very soon after that, the police gets to the place and actually sees the kidnappers running away with the bag full of money. Obviously, with all this going on, Barbara's father starts panicking because one of the rules was not to call the police. As we know, he didn't actually do it himself, someone else did, but he was worried what was going to happen after. So what he decides to do is to do an interview on TV explaining that he didn't actually call the cops, someone else did. Now, the kidnapper saw Barbara's father on TV, believed them, and decided to tell him where Barbara was buried. They already had the money, they were already far away, so they had nothing to lose. Now, they told the location where Barbara was buried, but obviously they couldn't explain exactly where, so more than 100 of FBI agents were sent to the place to excavate and find her. And the craziest thing was they were able to find Barbara because she did not give up while inside. She kept kicking the coffin and screaming, and that's how they found her. They actually heard her kicking the coffin on the ground and were able to find her that way. It took them exactly 12 minutes to excavate the place where she was and take her out. When she finally got out of the coffin, she was very weak. She had lost around 10 kilos. She was extremely tired, but she did not have any physical aggressions in her body. They ended up catching up the man kidnapper that was trying to run away on a boat, and he was sentenced to life in prison, but ended up staying in prison only for 10 years and then being released. And all of these just because he had good behavior in prison, which for me, guys, to be honest, is very, very infuriating when this happened. The girl kidnapper also ended up being found, but only 79 days after the kidnapping. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison because obviously she was an accomplice, but only served 4 years. Now, in Barbara's autobiography, she explains how she was able to keep calm and keep herself alive during those 3 days that she was kidnapped. She explains that all she thought about was her family and spending Christmas with her family, and that those good memories about her family would keep her calm and wanting to leave and just get out of there. Now, to me, this is super, super interesting because I would find it very, very hard to keep myself calm in a situation like that. You are buried, for God's sake, inside a coffin. How can anyone keep herself calm? But at the same time, I also think, well, we don't actually know how we're gonna react to things like that until we are actually going through things like that. So I just really think that it is amazing how she went through something like that and made it. Now, this is it for me today. This is everything I have to tell you about this case. Let me know in the comments below if you guys enjoyed this episode. What do you think about this story? Do you have any other stories that you would like to share with me? If yes, please leave them all in the comments below. I love to read everything you write, and I will for sure try to reply to every one of you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. It really helps my episodes to get out there. Also, don't forget to subscribe and join the family if you haven't already. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next episode.